And I would like to welcome all of you in here to the Instructors Roundtable for Law and Public Service. And I think that as we go on, some months will have more enrollment than others because it's going to be a heavy discussion at the beginning and end of semesters. And then probably during the middle of the grading periods, there won't be as much discussion. And so I'm glad that we're meeting once a month. And uh, if you remember, we talk about the teachers and students in school beginning. And I've been to 2 or 3 schools since the fall semester started. And I guarantee you the teachers have missed the kids and the kids have missed the teachers because there sure is a lot of on the campuses that I'm on. Those students are really engaged, and as hard as it is to believe, I really do think they miss being in school full time with their friends, their classes, and their teachers. And so we always wonder what's going on, and it's still pretty crazy out there, but it doesn't seem as bad as it was. And of course, we talked about CTAT and the different programming. This is just so you're kind of aware. This is just one of 3 different, actually 4 different roundtable groups that we conduct throughout the semester, and we have academies for coordinators and specialists, uh, people serving in administrative roles. We have an academy for new teachers, and we have professional development conferences. And in the summer, we will have the uh, CTAT Law and Public Service Conference. And I hope that that's in person this time and not virtual. And that's scheduled to be usually in New Braunfels. So hopefully by the time June gets here, we will be able to um, actually have an in-person law and public safety conference. And then also we do district program evaluations, and CTAT will come in and evaluate the whole career tech program. Or, for example, if you just wanted your law program evaluated and go through and look at your sequence of courses, what the student enrollment is, what type of certifications, we can do a complete program evaluation just on the law and public safety career cluster too. So I'm going to unshare my screen and jump back out here into the uh, gallery view. And if you will look into the chat box, what I'm posting here is during the last roundtable, we had a member that actually watched the video and contacted me the day after. And his name, I hope this is right, Jimmy Moore from Lake Dallas. And he at University in North Texas about 6 or 7 years ago produced tons of materials for law and public safety. And when that UNT grant ran out, they moved some of the resources over to the Texas OnCourse, the txcte.org. But the law and public safety information didn't all make it. But Jimmy Moore from Lake Dallas had saved that, and he has this Google Drive, and I shared this with you. And if you want to check right now and see if you can open that shared drive, go ahead. But I mean, there are a ton of resources. And let me see if I can. I'm gonna go ahead and uh, share my screen one more time and go to. So I hope that you can see. I'm actually in that. I'm in that shared resources. And so if you go in and you just look at law and public safety, well, they have 15 units worth of resources. I'm just going to open up unit 5, and you can see all of the different PowerPoints that are there. And so there's lesson plans, there's PowerPoints, there's quizzes, um, resources that you can't imagine. There's study tests. And so all of those came from that website that was formerly UNT, and also what Jimmy made his own. And what he asks is, when you share those resources, if you want to upload, that's fine, but make a copy of the Google slide or make a copy of the resource, before you edit it. And so one of the biggest needs that we learned from the last roundtable for law teachers was the need for resources. And those are really some incredible resources. So go ahead and use that Google Drive. You can make copies and move them over into your own Google Drive. That way you can change them and do whatever you want to. But and I sent Jimmy an email and sure appreciate it. And were you guys able to access that? Did y'all give it a try? Good deal. And what we did is we took and we just copied the emails of everyone that was registered last time, and we pasted that into the share. So if you've been here today or the last time, then you have access to that shared drive. So in saying that, is there any questions or ideas that you guys would like to post to the group, or get some ideas on, or share some good things, or share some challenges? Mr. Baker, what's working for you so far this first semester?
It's just kind of playing it day by day. Some of my classes, I've got 6, 7, 8 people, kids face to face. Some of my classes, I've got as low as 4 face to face. So I'm teaching the practicum of public safety, law enforcement, blah, 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 and correctional services. I taught correctional services last year, so a lot of my stuff, I still had the PowerPoints and the presentations and stuff saved. But my practicum class, this is the first year I've taught it, trying to go through a security company so I can, this is the capstone class, and to get my students be able to certify to get the level 2 unarmed security guard.
And
so I'm working on.
Are you going to Texas Engineering Extension Service through Mesquite?
No, I've got a hold of a gentleman down in McAllen, Guerrero's.
Yeah.
I joined the Facebook CTE law enforcement CTE page on Facebook.
Terrific.
And they somehow got steered down to this Guerrero's investigations down in McAllen. And he's supposed to, we're working on getting the purchase order down to him. And then once that's done, he said he would do a Zoom meeting for about an hour and a half. And then I would be certified to teach the level 2 security guard test.
Okay, I am pasting a link into the chat box, Mr. Baker, and whoever else certainly who needs it. But this is an awesome certification. I commend you for going that. But the Texas Engineering Extension Office in Mesquite online offers that level 2 certification. And I posted that, and it's $42 per student. And so that's really pretty reasonable. And, it could be a deal that you work it through. If you were doing it, it might take you a day to do it, but it might take you going through it with your student a couple of months or a semester. So, anyway, that's a great resource, and a lot of people are using that TEX. But I'm also familiar with. I've heard at conference a lot of people talking about the resource that you just mentioned, and I think that's fantastic too. I guess we'll find out next month because you'll be well into it.
Right. Well, I was told that before school even started that in order to administer the level 2 security guard test, I had to be certified, or a security company or a licensed law enforcement, TCOL certified law enforcement officer had to administer the test. Through Guerrero's, it's my understanding that I will be certified to give the test, get the training material, etc.
And that's great. And what I'm about to tell you, I'm not 100% sure of, but I think because that TEX, that's an online company that does it. And so technically, I guess they would be administering the test. So that may be another resource to look at, but you've got a plan in place to get those kids certified. And in law and public safety or law and public service, there's only about 3 or 4 approved certifications on the TEA list. So good deal. Ms. McConnell, you're top right. What kind of challenges are you having? Oh, you're muted.
Yep.
And go ahead. What district?
Yep.
Go ahead and tell everybody what district you're with.
Oh, I am with Grapevine Colleyville, and challenges, just balancing out, our virtual learners and our in-person learners and making sure that it's equitable, which of course limits some of the more exciting aspects of some of the, some of the curriculum and the classes that the kids are taking, especially like my law enforcement 1 and law enforcement 2 kids. They're wanting to get hands-on, they're wanting to have some fun. And unfortunately, that's just not where we're at right now. And so I've been adjusting and reorganizing my curriculum as how things are going to be playing out. So I'm pushing off more of the hands-on stuff, hopefully to next semester. So we will be in a better place where we can, have some fun.
Let me ask you a question. Why are you doing that? What's your thinking behind pushing back or delaying the hands-on activities? Is it because the students aren't there, or it's because you don't think that's where you're at in the curriculum?
A little bit of that, as far as not being there in the curriculum. I mean, clearly we're leading up to it, but mainly because in our district, there is a big push to make sure that things are equitable for those that are in person, those that are in my virtual world. And so it is not advised to try to do hands-on stuff right now, especially with, you have kids testing positive, and I've got a number of kids in quarantine, and, and so nobody really wants to engage in certain activities at this point. And so, I'm just, I'm trying to make it as fun and exciting with videos and things like that until we can meet again and get together.
Well, if you're doing, I'm especially curious about this because we were talking to some other law teachers from another district today that were having classroom management issues. And so one of the topics that came up is when we were interviewing the teacher and finding out, kind of what was going on in class, one of the things that we recommended was for them to really increase the number of hands-on activities. And so, and of course it has to fit wherever you're at in the curriculum, but if you're doing a traffic stop, what they say in the public health guidance on the TEA COVID page is get those kids outside and have outside activities whenever possible. So if you can set up crime scenes and do it safely, and of course it's easy for me to say sitting here, but I would encourage you to, look at go ahead and having those hands-on activities and those interactive activities that can be done safely. And, get outside and have the traffic stops and set up the crime scenes and
have some fun.
yeah, because the truth is in career tech, and Ms. McConnell, if I remember right, you're a first or second year teacher, right?
First.
Okay, so, kids, they have plenty of time that they can sit in and read Beowulf and work out quadratic equations, and I'm not saying that everything needs to be outside and funsy, because we all know that there's foundation information that you have to learn for every discipline. But what sets career tech apart is that ability to have those interactive activities and hands-on. So, I don't want to tell you to do anything that your district is discouraging you from doing, but if it's possible, I would encourage you to go ahead and have those activities. But
I am looking forward to having those activities. Like I said, it's just because if I can't bring the students here, they don't want certain students to feel left out if they can't participate with us. So I will think about that, and I'll see if I can come up with a creative solution. I mean, at this point, because I have I have another high school feeding into my class here. Those students are even staying on their campus. They're not even coming over to this campus.
So the Colleyville kids don't even travel over to Grapevine?
No, not for this class.
You
Now,
need
this,
to you need to have a serious meeting with your CTE director because he's letting you down. Now, I'm just teasing.
well,
Yeah.
we're supposed to reevaluate as we approach the 9-week mark. I know Rick would love to have a conversation about that, but
Yeah.
I mean, we're going to reevaluate, like I said, at the 9-week mark. It was just at the first 9 weeks. We decided, with the kids traveling over and everything, it was just, it wasn't the best choice. If there was, if there was curriculum I could provide that did not require them to come over.
Right.
That's why I have been, like I said, just kind of
And
reorganizing.
that makes a lot more sense, right?
But I mean, I've got, like I said, I've got a number of kids that are in quarantine. They've been exposed and so on. So at least because the kids from Colleyville were not over here, I've limited it to just GHS students versus GHS students and Colleyville students that would be on quarantine. And then how would that, do you see how the ripple would potentially be? So I'll be speaking with Rick, like I said, again, as we approach the end of the 9 weeks and see where we're at. Of course, they're also going to be looking at numbers in general. So,
Well, I know everybody's just doing the best they can, and you hate to use up your activities when the students are separated like that because they're such great activities that you want every bit one to be a part.
Yep.
Boy, it's a frustrating time in education, but I commend you for working on the equity level for all the students.
Yep. I'm doing my best.
Is there anything that maybe one of the other roundtable people might could help you with? Did you bring a question with you, or?
I've got a question. Has anybody offered their students the opportunity to get or to take the free online classes through the NIJ or FEMA for NIMS?
When you get into NIMS and ICS, that's going to be a little bit above their head.
Okay. Well, I know there is, well, I'm talking, I mean, even like my law enforcement too, they could just take that basic 100B class even, possibly even 700 maybe, I'm not sure about that. But I know that there is certain classes that are offered. They are their, what is it, IS classes, and they're offered to the general public. So I just wasn't sure, because like one of them was even on like what to do with an active shooter. Not saying I would necessarily give my kids that one, but it's one of those for the general public versus specific to law enforcement. But I was hoping that if they were to have some of these things under their belt, when they make up their resume, it shows that they have taken the initiative, that they are going to the right places to acquire knowledge and information. And you know what I'm saying? Like, that's my hope. But I just was wondering if anybody had presented that as an option for their kids to.
I haven't, but when I was in law enforcement, I took the ICS 700, 800, and
Yep.
it was almost over my head.
Yeah, I've got 100, 200, 300, 400. I can't remember 6, but 7 and 8. I remember 3 and 4 were crazy. But 100 wasn't too bad. I know 700 was more for everybody because that was just the general overview of, critical incident stuff. So I was just wondering if anybody had done that just so that I can give my kids something, just some options to pad their resumes.
Aren't those I know they're not industry approved and they don't count in your accountability, but at one time they were sending teachers and security staff and districts were taking some of those, not necessarily the ones you're talking about, but, emergency management procedures, the real basic levels. And I wonder, because Mr. Baker, it sounds like you've taken a couple firsthand. Is that one where you could maybe open that up and the students log in and you maybe work through it as a class and you have discussions about the topics and then Ms. McConnell, I like what your idea is.
You need this.
If you can find one that's level appropriate, then the kid gets to go through that FEMA information. And then at the end of it, if I remember right, Mr. Baker, if you pass the test, you just click a button and it prints you out a certificate, or you can save it as a PDF.
Exactly.
It's been several years since I've done the NIMS or the ICS. I retired in 2013.
Okay. Yeah. I'm gonna go look. I might make some phone calls and just see if that's even a possibility. I know on I think it was what was it? NIJ. They had Spanish for law enforcement was one of the courses. It was free courses, but I was just wondering if anybody had provided that for their students, or was that an option for their students to take? Because, like I said, I would love to be able to, I think it was like Crime Scene 101 for law enforcement was like one of the classes, and if they can have a certificate at the end of it, and be able to pad their resumes so that when they go into the real world, they have an edge above somebody else who hasn't taken that initiative. I would love to be able to provide that to my kids as a resource. And
Miss McConnell, I think you're talking about that website that I just posted in there, the FEMA. If that's not it, but that's the one that I was referring to, where even as teachers and students, we'd go through there, and they had the independent study courses that are online, and it's everything from fundamentals of emergency management, hazardous materials, setting up a command center, introduction to exercises, and effective communication. So I mean, to Mr. Baker's point, there's going to be some of that stuff in there that's going to, the FEMA director probably couldn't do, but some of those entry level, like communications and basic safety, I think you may be onto something there.
Yep.
Well, to be perfectly honest, I've never even thought about looking into that, and I'm glad Ms. McConnell brought that up. I mean, it could give you some. Last year in my law enforcement one, I could spend weeks and weeks and weeks on the killing crimes, murder, manslaughter, blah, blah, blah. And then towards in the spring, after, granted, we didn't come back after spring break, but I start running out of things. And so this could be some more material to cover.
And another thing I like about this is, I try to tell my students, always try to intern or volunteer or just shadow for a day. But, with COVID and quarantine going on, they can't get that experience. So this would be a great alternative to offer them, since they can't go out and shadow, at least, have a course. So yeah, thank you for bringing this up. This is great.
Thank you. And I think with FEMA, they have to apply for a SID number. I think, and it's in lieu of their social security number. But once they have that literally will follow them their entire career, because that is in this, that's in the system. Because I know I took 700 a decade and a half ago. No, probably even more than that. And my SID number is still my SID number. So, and there's a way to get your SID number if you already had one, but these kids, they can actually get themselves in the system and, be available maybe to even additional or more information that's out there. So, but like I said, there's FEMA, and then I also looked at the NIJ for some free training, and there's stuff there. I just didn't know if I didn't find anything that said you had to be 18 years old to do it, or if you had to be law enforcement to do it. Some of it, like I said, looked pretty basic, but it's free online courses. That's the thing. All of it's free, and they get a certificate. And, Ms. Martinez, like you were saying, right now, our hands are kind of tied because we can't get our kids out in the community to be able to, volunteer or intern and things like that. So at least this is something that I want to help prop up their resumes with. So at the end of the school year, when they move on to, bigger and better things, they have that advantage. They have something underneath their belt that they could put on their resume.
And those CEUs, like you said, they'd be there forever. It's just part of their transcript through FEMA.
Would
exactly.
you be able to share the websites to those other ones besides the FEMA?
Oh, and yeah, give me 1 second. I will.
You go ahead and visit Miss McConnell, and I'll look those up if you'll tell me what was the name of it, the NIJ or
Yes, you know what, actually, Mark, somebody posted something about the NIJ on that website that you had sent out about the that folder with all the Google Docs that you were speaking of earlier. Somebody in that thread posted something about the NIJ because they were looking for, I think, forensic psychology. And so that's why I went over to the NIJ website to find out about free training.
okay, here it is right here. And it's the one that's under the FEMA. And that's the National Institute for Justice.
Justice. So you'll find a lot of like science related stuff, like the forensic stuff in there, but I mean, DNA stuff. And I saw all that, which clearly, you know, some of that might be too much, but I mean, if you have a student that is an overachiever and that's where they want to go, I mean, like I said, I just want to be able to provide them this information.
Or if they're working on a project, or you know, this could be a part of a larger project. And
Not to sound selfish, but I'm teaching forensic science, so this is perfect. So
Oh,
thank you.
of course, of course. And then real quickly, if you're teaching forensic science, you would probably want to go to here, I'll just put it in here. IAI.org. That is the IAI.org. I don't know why, I'm sorry. But that is the International Association for Identification. They've got a lot of information there. And then give me a second and I'll try to think of some other ones to help you out there.
those are great resources.
Yeah, thank you. This is my second year teaching high school and my first time teaching forensic science. And I'm a social science person, so this would be great. And you know, a lot of my kids are really interested in pursuing, you know, a career in the forensic sciences. So
Ms. Martinez, I was a former crime scene investigator for a long time. So that is my email. If you just want to shoot me an email, and if you have questions or if you want ideas for activities or anything like that, please just send me an email and I will be more than happy to, you know, let you know what I know and
thank you.
some resources and at least point you in the right direction to find what you're looking for.
Thank you. I greatly appreciate that.
You're welcome. Give me 1 second.
One thing I was thinking about, since we can't do shadowing or internships, is possibly maybe using our collective network to possibly do like a Zoom meeting, have a Zoom presenter. You know, for example, somebody who worked in crime scene, or somebody who's, you know, a criminal prosecutor or things of that sort, and just sort of joining together and building a network of folks that we could possibly have a, you know, in the day of, or have students be able to ask questions via Zoom.
Also, Miss Martinez, if you did that, then you could record the Zooms and students could watch that asynchronous, or you could just show it during different class periods. You know, for example, if you couldn't get them all together at once. I think that's a great idea. I encourage you maybe to even use each other. Miss McConnell, what was your background in law enforcement?
I was a crime scene investigator and a crime scene.
Oh, you just, and Mr. Baker, you were a police officer?
Yes, I was a police officer in Oklahoma.
And Miss Martinez, what was your background?
I come from an academic research background.
Well,
social services, like child protective services.
you know,
Oh,
there's three very unique, um, distinctive occupations, and I bet between the three of you, there would be some incredible stories that could be told, and share with each other students through a Zoom meeting, like Miss Martinez said. Uh, to be honest, that's one of my when we have that law conference for the law teachers in the summer and the June. That's my favorite part, just sitting around listening to the teachers tell stories in those breakout rooms because they're also interesting. Miss Martinez, if there's a way that we could help facilitate that, CTAT does have a Zoom license for 500.
Oh, okay.
So I'm going to put my email in there. And so as you work forward on this, if you need help maybe in that area, let me know.
Yeah, thank you.
Miss Palladino or Miss Thetford, we're not trying to leave you guys out, but we sure would like to hear from you. How are you guys doing today?
Well, this is Susan Thetford, and I'm just going to be real honest with you. I do not have a background whatsoever in law enforcement. However, that's probably debatable because I was a high school principal. However, now I'm a director of support services, and we have just added law enforcement curriculum to our CTE department. So I'm just being a fly on the wall in this particular chat room just to learn whatever I can possibly learn.
Well, Ms. Thetford, I am reposting that Google Drive folder of shared documents. And if you have a teacher that's brand new and has nothing, those are some great survival
Well,
resources.
thank you. And I beat you to the punch. I've already sent it to them. So I appreciate that. And I appreciate the resources too. And I've copied your emails as well. So we are a small 3A district. However, we are exploding left and right because we're right near San Antonio. And so we are looking to grow all kinds of programs in law enforcement. We have a very large group of youngsters in there this semester, so we're excited about building the program.
And what district are you with? I'm sorry.
We're Marion ISD. We're next to New Braunfels.
Yeah, Marion. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Back in my former life, I was an agricultural science teacher, and Marion always had such a strong FFA chapter and a strong ag science program.
And we still do. We're very proud of them.
Yeah.
One thing I would encourage is to reach out to the local police department, because I know some police departments will work with the high school to try to get a transition from high school to the TECOL certification to become a police officer. So that might be something worthwhile to look into. Sort of creating that little lifeline.
And also, most police departments have some type of explorers program. And while that's not a CTSO, but those explorers, a lot of times, they'll be your students that become your kids that compete in Skills USA. And
Right.
so, yeah, that the local police department can be an invaluable resource. I know we utilize them. The explorers is what made me think about it.
Thank you. This is great information. I appreciate it.
Ladies and gentlemen, I hate to spoil the party, but I've got to be going.
Mr. Baker, it was good to see you, and hopefully we see you again next month. And
Yes, sir.
if Miss Martinez puts together that round table of speakers, I look forward to listening to you.
All right. Look forward to it.
Nice to meet you.
Y'all have a blessed day.
You do.
Thank you, Mr. Baker. Bye-bye. And I am having to take off also. I've got another engagement I gotta go to, but please, you guys, like I said, in the chat, if you guys have any questions, let me know. My email is there. I'm happy to help.
Thank you, Miss
Ms.
McConnell.
McConnell.
Keep old Rick honest up there.
I'm doing my best, but you know him. It's sometimes
Got to be a struggle, right?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Miss Martinez, did you say something?
Oh, no, I just said bye. Thank you, Ms. McConnell.
Yes, thank you. Yes, please. I put in there the website for the American Academy of Forensic Sciences.
Yes.
For ASCLD, and that is the American Society of Crime Laboratory Directors. And so there's just a lot of useful information there. But AAFS is a great one to direct your students to, because it helps them choose a career within forensic science, all the different careers that are available in forensic science. And so it's a really great resource.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Have a great day. See you guys at the next meeting.
Yeah,
Let's-
Mark, thank you for doing these. I appreciate it. They're always beneficial.
You bet. Do you have a specific question or anything to ask before we go?
No, I'm good. I love just listening to everybody else. So,
What
but thank you
district
so much.
are you with, Ms.
I'm with
Paladino?
Waco ISD.
Mr. Baker?
Yes. He's at the other school. Yeah, other high school.
Well, fantastic. Well, thank you for joining us.
I appreciate your help. Thank you.
Okay, fantastic. This is very productive. And I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording. Ms. Martinez, did you have anything else?
No, sir. Thank you for hosting the meeting.
Well, thank you guys. And I'm going to stop the recording, and I'll send the link to the YouTube out to everyone that registered. And I'll also send the chat text out. And so that way, if you missed a link or something, you want to copy it, you'll have that.
Okay, thank you. Have a wonderful evening.
You too. Thanks. Thanks to everyone. Good night.